Yep. Now, in a normal relationship that seems relatively happy, let's discuss that. So we have the woman in the relationship, the male in the relationship. If it seems happy, and it may be happy, there is only one of a couple of different possibilities. One is that they are in many codependent addictions with each other. In other words, I desire that a woman listens to me, and Mary always listens to me.
As long as you...
But as long as I make her feel safe.
Yeah.
So she desires that I make her feel safe, and I always make her feel safe. Right? Now, I suggest to you that while that relationship will feel very harmonious, it is actually not a soulmate relationship, because while I have an expectation and a demand that something get fulfilled, I am not loving actually. So if I have a feeling inside of myself that I want to make Mary feel safe, the question has to be asked, well, why doesn't Mary feel safe already without me being in her life? And is that love making her feel safe? Surely she needs to feel her fear of unsafety, and then once she gets through that, she'll automatically feel safe. She won't need me to make her feel safe. You see, love doesn't need the other person to give it anything. So as soon as I require something of Mary, then I am being unloving. But you see, what happens on the earth most of the time is the opposite to this. I have an emotion at Mary, just even simple emotions like a good woman will always make my dinner every night. Just a simple emotion like that, right? And Mary feels like, yes, I want to make his dinner every night. That's my role. That's how I feel.
That's how I feel important. And like I'm good.
We are now in a codependent addiction. We are now sympathetic in our attraction. It'll feel great because I get my meal every night and Mary gets to feel important every night. It'll feel great to both of us, but the reality is that there is still healing to happen in the relationship. Now, anything like that is going to mean also generally that we're open sexually to each other. So while Mary is meeting my codependent addictions and she is meeting, and I'm meeting her addictions, there's a high likelihood we'll also have some sexual bond during that state. But it's when you no longer meet the addiction, it's interesting what happens then, right? So for example, if Mary no longer met my addiction, so I come home from a hard day's work and there's no meal. And I find Mary's been out there by the pool for the whole day and there's no meal. And I've been hard at work out, chipping away at concrete or something all day. So what am I feeling now? I'm now feeling, wow, my addiction is not met. No, of course I don't feel that, do I? Because I don't even recognise it's an addiction. I just feel she doesn't love me immediately, right? Because I'm no longer getting this addiction met, I then automatically go into the state, what's happening? Have you got another guy? What happened to my meal? It goes from one state to a completely different state many times as a result. And usually it's because, and from that particular night, do you think that I'm going to be very attracted to Mary? No, because my addiction is not getting met and I'm angry. I'm upset. And anger is a major impediment to sexual attraction. Now, what we need to do is understand that many times this codependent relationship exists in a relationship, and one or both need to have the desire to challenge it if we want to grow.
If we want to
towards
grow.
God.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Now, many people don't want to grow towards God, and they're perfectly happy in staying in a codependent addiction with their partner all their life. And I say to you, well, fair enough, if that's what you want to do, you're allowed to do that because you've got your life and it's your life, nobody else's. You're allowed to stay in these very seemingly happy codependent addiction roles with each other if that's what you wish. But what I'm saying is that is not a soulmate relationship. And it also means that you'll never be at one with God. Because you have codependent addictions, it means that you have expectations and demands which are unloving. And anything that's unloving in us has to be confronted if we're going to become at one with God. So as long as you both have a strong desire for God, there's a good chance that you'll want to deal with any codependent addictions within you. Does that make sense? As long as you both have a desire for God. But if you don't have a desire for God and you only have a desire for each other and you feel quite happy and you're happy with this, I do things for you, you do things for me type thing going on for the rest of your life, then you'll probably stay the rest of your life in that relationship and feel quite content about the relationship. But that is not a soulmate relationship. That's only two people getting what they want from each other.
And eventually the process of barter, which is essentially what's happening there, can get very tiring and taxing, and anger can start to build. And this is when sexual relationships start to disconnect, because I might just start feeling like it's just always expected, and I don't want to make you dinner, and actually I might keep making your dinner and suppress the rage and
be resentful
and then I want distance sexually. Yeah.
So what will happen in the relationship if the sexual connection starts separating? That's a very good indication that other things in the relationship are in denial. Not the sexual connection, but other things. Does everyone follow that? Like other things such as what's happening from a love perspective between the two of us. So I might still have the demand upon Mary to cook my meal every night. She now feels annoyed with this demand. So she's done it for 20 years now. Well, you'd be annoyed after 20 years of having to make the evening meal every night, and nobody makes an evening meal for you. Like, isn't that quite annoying? Sooner or later it's going to be. But she might deny that. She might say to herself, I've got a loving relationship, everything's fine. There's just this one thing that's a bit of a problem. But
very often we don't even acknowledge that one thing, do we? We just submerge it and suddenly, no sexual desire.
And all of a sudden, I don't feel anything, or she doesn't feel anything to actually desire to make love, right? And then as a result of that, I'm going, she doesn't want to make love to me anymore. I go, what's wrong? Why don't we want to, what's the... And she just says, I don't know. I don't know. There's something, I just don't feel sexy anymore or sexual desire for you anymore. And we can be in so much denial that we don't even know
what's happening.
What's actually really happening.
The other thing that can happen is also that we're in strong addiction with each other, and for the early part of our relationship, that creates a sexual connection because there's this feeling, you make me feel nice, I make you feel nice. We have a sex life. It's regular and we feel like it's quite enjoyable. But say I'm a woman who's carrying a lot of shame from my mother and some abuse in my childhood and some issues that happened when I was at high school. I've suppressed them. Now, earlier in my life, I can get over those things because this nice feeling thing and we just have sex but eventually the suppression is building and it's going to start to create anger inside of me. And then I can suddenly feel like, I don't have a sexual desire at all, and not understand why in the same way. Yeah.
Yep. Now, I put to you that God created every single being every single human soul to enjoy the soulmate relationship. And when you enjoy the soulmate relationship, you will wonder what you were missing, and why you would ever contemplated any other relationship, right? And this is the problem on the planet, is we often are in so much fear about losing our current relationship that we don't embrace the potentialities that are available to us. So what I suggest is that you may even be with your soulmate, but not be in a soulmate relationship. Because remember, soulmate relationship is based on purity of truth, desire, and purity of love. That's when the soulmate relationship really starts developing. My suggestion is if you're in a good relationship, then start asking yourself, is it purity in truth? Is it purity in desire? Am I allowed to have my desires? Do I
enable the desire of the other person?
Do I even know what my desires are? Or are they suppressed as well? And start working on all those. Now, as you start working on all of those, whether you're the male or the female in the relationship, the other person, whether they like it or not, are going to be challenged by these new changes in yourself.
Well, if you think about it, if we're in codependent addiction, many of them, the more I start to break down those and say, oh, hang on, maybe that's not loving, or maybe I don't desire that, I'm going to try and do something that doesn't need an arrow back.
It doesn't need a demand met,
Yes.
in other words. Yep.
Yep. I'm going to follow my desire. I'm going to try and love in purity my partner and not give him what he needs to feel good in this moment because I'm breaking the addiction. It's going to be very challenging for both of us. It's going to feel a bit rocky.
Yeah. But what I suggest is that eventually, if you can do that, you will get closer and closer to the soulmate relationship. Now, if the soulmate relationship is such that this person is not your soulmate, but rather somebody else is, sooner or later both of you will recognise this at some point. You'll recognise, wow, we are very different in desires. We are very different with our personality. We are very different. And in fact, in the past, what we've been doing is just pandering to each other's addictions, right? Just doing what the other person demanded, and that made us both feel good. But now that we're not doing what the other person demanded and we're connecting with our own desires and our own passions, instead of it drawing us together, it's pulling us apart, right? Now that's a sign that something is wrong, right? In other words, when I say something is wrong, it means that firstly, we must have been in a codependent relationship, and secondly, there's a chance that this person is not my soulmate, just a chance, because we don't know for certain until both of us engage our desires and passions, and both of us speak the truth, and both of us act in harmony with love with each other. We won't know for certain what the choice is. Both won't know for certain. One might, but the other one might not. Now, in terms of what do I do? I've got children, and all of a sudden I realise that, you know, someone's not my soulmate, and I no longer feel the sexual attraction to them. My suggestion is this, quite simple. While you feel a sexual attraction for somebody and you're in a relationship with them, then you are in harmony with at least one of your desires. Does that make sense? So while you feel a sexual attraction for somebody and you're in a relationship with them, you are in harmony with one of your desires. As soon as you choose to leave that person because you think somebody else is your soulmate and there is no sexual attraction with your soulmate, why would you do such a thing in the first place? Do you see what I'm saying? Why would you leave a person if there's no sexual attraction with the other person, but there remains a sexual attraction with the person you're with? Why would you leave them? Conversely, if here you are and here your husband, partner is, and over here is another person that you've met, and you're constantly thinking about them, constantly feeling for them, now you've got to have some issues of truth. One issue is truth, is how are you treating this person? This person, not this person. This person you're with. You need to treat this person with love and truth. You need to tell them that you keep thinking about this person. You need to tell them that for some reason there's an attraction in that direction and you don't understand why. Now, that attraction may be based on error. And if it is, and if you talk about it, you both will feel closer. This relationship will feel closer. If it's based on truth, then you may eventually, as you grow, go, no, I can no longer engage this relationship sexually. I still love the person and I still feel feelings for the person of love, but I no longer can engage them sexually because it doesn't feel right anymore. If that was the case, you could still remain even living together for a little while just to test that out, couldn't you? You could still stay together, test that out. How is this working? What happens here? You could stay doing that until such a time as it becomes clear to you that it's unloving for you to stay in that relationship.
Yeah.
I don't ever suggest to a person that they just go, oh, that person's my attraction, I'm going to go them straight away, and all of a sudden all of this is put apart, and this person may be your soulmate.
And even if they're not, why do you not desire to love them? Yeah. So if you've been in a relationship with them for 20 years, you've had 3 kids, and you know you've been and you realise, even you find this teaching or whatever, and you realise, wow, actually I think we're in a lot of codependent addiction, and you annoy me now. I'm just going to rub you out and go and sleep with this guy who I met at a seminar who I feel really hot for. Yeah. That would be so unloving. And the basis of the teaching is about love and truth. Yeah. Yep.